I recently returned from my 4th trip to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. And if you are planning a trip to Cabo and you're not quite sure where you want to stay, what type of resort you want to book, I think you'll find this video helpful. I'm going to be comparing 2 of the resorts that we've stayed at in Cabo, most recently Corazón, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, and Nobu, Los Cabos, where I have stayed twice. I stayed with my family at Corazón last week for 6 nights. I stayed at Nobu last January over New Year's with my husband and another couple. We had a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom suite at Nobu. My husband and I also stayed there the year before, 2024, in February for the first time. So what I'm going to do today is share with you my experiences at both, give you the pros and cons of both. Obviously, these are not the only 2 resorts in Cabo. There is an abundance of spectacular resorts in Cabo, with new ones seeming to open up every year. And being that I am not a travel specialist nor a travel influencer yet, I have not had the opportunity to check out a lot of the other ones that are out there. So today I'll just be comparing these 2 that I have firsthand experience with. So if that interests you, then please keep on watching. Okay, I want to start by explaining to you why we decided to try a different resort this time and not go back to Nobu for a 3rd time. On this trip, my husband and I brought our 2 sons that are ages 21 and 24. And while Nobu is a fantastic hotel for relaxation, great vibes, calming vibes, a great spa, great food, just total and complete luxury and relaxation, I wouldn't exactly call it super fun for 20-somethings. Nobu is about a 55 minute drive from the airport, whereas Corazón is situated near the marina with shops and restaurants. It's about 25 minutes from the airport, and it is a much livelier area because you do have a swimmable beach there. The majority of the beaches in Cabo are not swimmable, and that is very important to understand when you are booking these resorts. So at Nobu, there is a beach, but you cannot get in the water. My husband and I have also stayed at LeBlanc Los Cabos, which is another high-end, all-inclusive, adults-only resort. But I didn't want to include that in this comparison because we went in 2021, just at the tail end of COVID. So things were very, very different then as far as pricing and as far as I'm sure the experience would be now versus then. So I will touch on our experience at LeBlanc a little bit. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that even at LeBlanc, a 5-star luxury resort, the Waldorf Astoria, neither of them have swimmable beaches. And in case you're wondering why these beaches are not swimmable, because the Pacific Ocean in this area has very, very strong undertows, very dangerous currents, making it not safe for swimmers. So last year, when my husband and I and our friends were staying out at Nobu, we did take a car one day over to downtown and to the marina so that we could do a tequila tasting and go to a place called The Office that we had heard really good things about. We were told they had great food, it's a great atmosphere, which it is. The food is incredible, the service is incredible, and there are definitely some party vibes happening there. So we went with our friends to The Office, and as we're walking from the marina to the restaurant, I see this really nice looking resort right there on the beach, right there in this fabulous location. So I looked it up. And lo and behold, it was Corazón, which is a 4-star resort. And at the time that I booked it, which was back in August, it did have some pretty fantastic reviews. So my husband and I discussed it, and we discussed it with our sons. And we said, hey, we really want to take you guys to Cabo, but we think you might be a little bit bored where we usually stay. So I went ahead and booked it for 6 nights. Both Nobu and Corazón do offer transportation that you have to arrange in advance, transportation from the airport, which I do recommend. As soon as you walk out of the airport in Cabo, after customs, after you've gotten your bags, there is going to be a bar. Actually, there's a couple of bars, but there's one main bar that everybody seems to know about and seems to go to. And then under the numbered canopies across from the bar, that is where you will find people either holding up signs with your last name on it, or they are holding up signs for the resort that you're staying at. And they're always very welcoming and very helpful. All you have to do is mention to one of the people standing there what resort you're looking for, and they will point you in the right direction. And through the hotel, we paid $200 round trip for the 4 of us, all of our suitcases. It was a very nice, clean black SUV that picked us up. This time the driver had a welcome cooler of beers and waters. He was very friendly. They know you're coming to have a great time. And each time I've gotten in a car with one of these drivers, they have always just been so happy, so friendly, and I've enjoyed the experience each time. So it was $200 for the round trip from the airport to Corazon. It was $300 round trip to Nobu. Nobu also does not allow Ubers on their property. So anytime you do want to leave the property, they have to schedule the transportation. Now, I don't know if that has changed. When we went about a year ago, they had just implemented that rule where actually I think it was you could get dropped off by an Uber, but they could not pick you up on the property. So one time I believe we took their prearranged car service to a restaurant off the property, and then we Ubered back. Because just to go to one of our favorite restaurants in Cabo, which is called Sunset Mona Lisa, we make sure to go there during every visit. Make sure you book a reservation during sunset, because I think that's the main draw of the restaurant, is watching the sunset. But it did cost us, from Nobu, $75 each way. So keep that in mind. The farther out you are, if you want to travel off property, it is going to cost you. Nobu is not an all-inclusive. They do have fantastic restaurants on the property, but if you're staying for 6 or 7 nights, there's a chance you may want to go off property to check out some other popular restaurants. I'm not sure if I said this yet, but to go to Sunset Mona Lisa from Corazon was $25 on the way there and $35 on the way back, which was still a lot considering the distance from Corazon to this restaurant, Sunset Mona Lisa, was only about 2 miles. Basically, the first thing you want to think about when selecting your hotel in Cabo is the location. Where do you want to be? What kind of vibes or scene are you going for? Do you want to be where the action is, where the nightlife is, or at least closer to the nightlife? Do you want to be near a swimmable beach? Do you want to be near all of the different independent restaurants that are off the beaten path that locals recommend that you won't find on OpenTable or TripAdvisor? Because there are many. We ate at them this time and so many of them were just fantastic. Or do you want to just be on the property, stay on the property? Maybe you want an all-inclusive. All-inclusives are not the best for my family because, believe it or not, my 21-year-old son does not drink alcohol. He hates it. My 24-year-old, on the other hand, I think he had a margarita or a pina colada in his hand all day, every day. My husband also does not drink. Not because he has or has ever had a problem with alcohol. He just is like my son. They don't like it. And then I do enjoy a margarita or two. I have found that as I've gotten older, my alcohol tolerance is very, very low. So knowing that, you can probably understand now why we didn't go for one of the all-inclusive resorts. And that does make a difference. I wholeheartedly believe that if you are staying at an all-inclusive, you're going to be less likely to go off the property, because why would you go spend $300-400 on dinner when it's included at your hotel that hopefully has great restaurants to choose from right on the property? Now at Corazon, you can get an all-inclusive package, but everyone in the room has to get it. So it just, again, was not the right thing for us to go the all-inclusive route. Okay, now I want to focus in on our experience at Corazon. As I mentioned, we chose it for its location, its amenities with a rooftop bar, the swimmable beach. Truthfully, we enjoyed almost everything about the resort. But, and this is a big but, the room. We had booked a luxury 2-bedroom suite. Perhaps it's because I have been spoiled by my room at LeBlanc and my room at Nobu, which I will show you a little bit later in the video. This room did not meet my expectations. Everything in this room needed updating. And I'm going to be a little harsh here for a minute. The door to the bathroom in the room my husband and I were staying in would not close fully. The toilet also did not flush well. Over at Nobu, the toilet, as soon as you walk into the bathroom, the seat opens for you, the light goes on, there's a bidet, there's a seat warming element. When you're done, it flushes for you, the seat goes down for you, the light turns off. And at Corazon, at least in our bathroom, we had to hold the handle down in order to get it to fully flush. The TV remote, once again, in the room my husband and I were sleeping in, did not work. The fan did not work. The safe looked like it was at least 30 years old. One of the oldest looking safes I had ever seen. The toaster, again, was at least 30 years old. And I put a bagel in there. After about 20 seconds, the toaster started steaming, and this is what it ended up looking like. Now, I'll be honest with you, we didn't bring all of these problems to the front desk. We didn't bring them to the attention of the staff there because they're all pretty minor things, and we don't like to be the people that are constantly complaining about everything. The thing is, those small things do add up. So there were actually a couple of other problems that we had that we did bring to the staff's attention, such as the one evening where we had no hot water. The shower my husband and I were using had hot water, but the boys did not. So we called, and they did send someone over right away. It was fixed within like a half an hour. The next morning, it was either the morning after that or I don't know, it was one of the mornings early on in our trip. At about 7 a.m., my husband and I started hearing hammering. It sounded like it was right above us, but we were on the second floor, and I think there's like there's 7 floors in the tower we were in, and the top floor is a restaurant called Baja Brewing Company, which was excellent, by the way. So we thought either they're doing work in the room above us, but why would they do it at 7 a.m.? And then for the next several hours, it sounded like they were rolling equipment or chairs or tables just back and forth. It was so noisy for hours. So again, we did ask about that, and they got back to us and told us that there was some work being done at the Baja Brewery, and that's what we were hearing. They did tell us that they were going to make sure that that didn't happen again. So again, when we did bring these things to the staff's attention, they did address them. My husband and I were fine with the remote not working. We didn't really watch TV in the room, or weren't that interested in watching the TV in the room anyway. And then honestly, when minor things are wrong in the room, I don't want to have to keep calling and having to wait for people to come and fix things. The other things were all things that we could live with, but were just generally unimpressed by and made our experience overall not so great. So let me be clear. The people that worked on this resort, from the concierge who helped me arrange our transportation, to booking me some dinner reservations, to assisting when we did have these other issues come up, everyone, from the people at the pool, at the beach club, so kind, so helpful. The property, very clean, very nice, great location. The food was great. The drinks were great. I really enjoyed staying on this property, with the exception of our room. It just wasn't giving luxury resort. My only other complaint would be the setup for the pools. There are 3 pools on this property. One of them is at Rooftop 360, which at night turns into a very lively bar. I'll insert some footage of it. It's great. We went up there 2 nights, had the best time. You can go up there during the day. There is a small pool up there, and you have to reserve that in advance. And there is, I think we were told, a $50 or $75 minimum. There is another pool right outside the main check-in area that is an infinity pool. That one, the seating area is pretty small, and if you're not out there by 8 a.m., you're not getting a seat. The other pool, which was right outside of our balcony, had a great little swim-up bar, but because of the way it's situated right next to one of the tall towers, which is the tower that we were staying in, it doesn't get any sunlight past 10 a.m. So on a sunny day, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, you can sit out by the pool and there will be sun. But once it gets to noon or any time thereafter, the pool and much of the chair seating area is shaded. It does seem like an odd complaint from someone like me who actually likes to sit in the shade. I like to sit in the shade in the sun, if that makes sense. I like the sun to be out. I like to be looking out at the sun over the water or the pool, and then just have an umbrella over me. And especially when the temperature is only in the low 70s and there's a little bit of wind, the sun makes a big difference. You can actually feel cold if you're sitting in the shade. And then there's the beach club. This is a lot of fun. There's no minimum spend, but you do have to book a reservation at least 24 hours in advance. So there were day beds out there and chairs. We preferred chairs, so we got 4 of those, and we were in the second row. So on the beach, there's a roped off area for the Corazón Beach Club. There's also a restaurant right there. It's a great setup. They play lively music. The staff, again, top tier, so attentive. On the beach itself, on the other side of the rope, is the public beach where anybody can go sit on a towel, sit on a lounge chair, and go in the water. And there are a lot of vendors. People selling sunglasses, people selling silver jewelry, people selling blankets, and they are everywhere. So if you don't like that, if you don't like being approached, you aren't going to like even the public beaches at Cabo, or this resort at least. While they are not allowed to come into the roped off area, they do stand right in front of it and will call out to you asking if you want, a massage or if you want a henna tattoo. And if you don't like that, I don't really mind it. I'm just feeling the vibes when I'm out there. I'm looking at the water, I'm drinking my margarita or my pina colada, listening to music, hanging out with my family, or reading my book. So yeah, I honestly don't mind it that much, but if you would find that annoying, that is something else to consider. Now let me tell you a little bit more about Nobu. This was our 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath suite at Nobu. Nobu is known for its Japanese architecture. It's very zen. And this is actually in the residences portion of Nobu. To get onto the Nobu property, you do have to go through 2 security checkpoints. The first security checkpoint is just to get into the area where both Nobu is located and the Hard Rock. They're right next to each other. And then there are some homes and a golf course in this vicinity. So you go to that guard gate first, and then you drive about 10 minutes. So once you're on the property, it's another 10 minutes to actually get down to the ocean area where the resorts are. And then it splits off to the Hard Rock and then Nobu. And there's another gate right there at Nobu with a guard who checks that you're staying there. And some people do come to the resort just to eat dinner at Nobu. So you go through that security guard as well. So you do feel very secure there. Nobu does have a much larger pool area, or should I say pool areas. They're much larger, and Nobu is also quite strict about their chair policy. If you are not in your seat for more than an hour or an hour and a half, they will remove your stuff. So it's not like at Corazón where people could put out their towels on the chairs at 7 a.m. and then not be seen for 5 hours, so that people who are there right then at the pool can have a seat. There's no saving pool chairs for hours. All of the restaurants we ate at were spectacular, but I will say the food is a lot pricier at Nobu than at Corazón. The drinks especially, which is another reason why we didn't want to take the boys to Nobu, aside from us feeling like they would be bored. I mentioned that my older son, he does like to have his drinks, especially on vacation. And instead of a margarita being $13 or $14, or there being a 2-for-1 happy hour like Corazon had, Nobu's cocktails are around $22, $24 USD, which, being that I live in Las Vegas, that's kind of like the normal price for a cocktail these days, and pretty much what you would expect at a 5-star resort. I honestly have no complaints about Nobu. I love it there. My husband and I love it so much that we actually bought kind of like a timeshare, but kind of not. We went to the breakfast that all of these resorts pretty much offer you, trying to entice you to buy. We went in there thinking, we're not buying anything. Absolutely not. We had originally booked, this is 2 years ago now, so the first time we went to Nobu, we had originally booked just a basic room. And then we decided to go to the little talk because they said it was only going to be an hour. And then if we went, we could get free spa treatments. We could get a food and beverage credit. So my husband and I went in just thinking absolutely not. And we said no multiple times to buying anything. And then they gave us basically a deal we could not refuse. So we ended up purchasing 28 days at Nobu, basically 4 weeks over the next 10 years, which we thought ended up being a pretty good deal. Because not only did we feel like they gave us a good price, we also get free spa treatments for the first 5 years. All we have to do is pay the gratuity. We can split the weeks up. We don't have to go for a full 6 nights or 7 nights. We can go for 4 nights. We can take one trip that's 3 nights. And of course, once you buy, they are very, very nice to you. Even though they were nice before, they're even nicer to you now. And so they immediately moved us to this 2-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom suite. And then they told us that if we came back to use our first week within the year, they would upgrade us to this 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath again, because we had only purchased a 1-bedroom, 1 bath, or the timeshare for the 1-bedroom and 1 bath, because my husband and I figured we would just, be coming ourselves most of the time. But because they had told us that they would upgrade us to the 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath, that is when we decided to invite our friends last January. So going back to Corazon, they also invite you to a breakfast to show you the property and to give you like a VIP card for discounts on excursions. Like if you're going to go whale watching or ATV riding. And we don't really do those things because my husband and I we both get very seasick on boats, very seasick. And call me an overprotective mother. They can do these things when I'm not around, but when I'm there, I have too much anxiety to allow them to go ATV riding or parasailing. So anyway, we did not go to the breakfast at Corazon because we were not going to be buying anything. Now, would we have moved to a better room had we gone to the breakfast tour? Who knows? But I honestly really wish that wasn't even a thing. Even at Nobu, when we brought our friends with us last year, they were trying to get our friends to go to a little, talk and potentially buy something. But we shut that down pretty quickly. But anyway, I do wish that that wasn't so prevalent. I can't say for sure that all of the resorts in Mexico do this, where they try to get you to buy their timeshare or their vacation packages. So please let us know in the comments if you've stayed at a resort in Cabo that did not ask if you wanted to go to their welcome breakfast or take a tour of the property for a VIP discount card. Okay, I feel like this video is getting very long, but I did have a lot that I wanted to cover. So hopefully I covered everything, and hopefully I answered the majority of your questions. In case you were wondering, would I stay at Corazon again? Probably not. I cannot reiterate enough that the staff at the resort was fabulous. The food, amazing. Drinks, fantastic. Location, amazing. The room, not for me. And I know there are lots of people out there who don't really care about the room. Your reasoning is that you're on vacation, you're not spending a lot of time in your room, you're just there to sleep or to change, and that's fine. A lot of people share that viewpoint. I guess, am unapologetic about liking or wanting a nice room, especially for the price that you are paying to stay at these higher end resorts. And I just think that there are a lot of others that I would try if I didn't go back to Nobu. Obviously, I will be going back to Nobu because we still have 3 weeks over the next 8 years to use. But I would also like to check out some of the other ones that people have recommended, like Grand Vilas or Esperanza. And honestly, I'd like to go back to LeBlanc because we did have a wonderful experience there, and I'd be interested to see how different it is now than it was 5 years ago, right during or slightly after COVID. Hopefully I've made it obvious that I do love vacationing in Cabo. When you are deciding which resort to choose, just think about those things I mentioned earlier. Are you looking to just relax and have more high-end, quiet, zen vibes? You will love Nobu, and you will probably love those higher-end resorts that are further away from the downtown or the Marina area. But if you are looking to be where more of the action is, you want to be near unlimited, great restaurants for breakfast, lunch, dinner, or having a swimmable beach is a must-have for you, then you definitely want to stay near the Marina, or Medano Beach specifically. It says here that Medano Beach is famous for its calm, swimmable waters, but Chilano Beach, Santa Maria Beach, and Palmilla Beach are also popular recommended spots for safe swimming. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions. If you enjoyed this video, I really appreciate you giving it a thumbs up, perhaps subscribing to my channel. I started this channel, Passport and Pumps, in the fall, which wasn't the best timing because the third quarter of the year is the busiest quarter for those of us who are beauty and fashion influencers. If you have never seen me before, I do have a pretty large, almost 500,000 subscribers channel dedicated to beauty content because I was a makeup artist for more than 25 years. So if you happen to stumble upon this video because you were interested in this type of content, but you also perhaps like beauty content, I hope you will check out my main channel, Risa Does Makeup. You do have my word though that now that my busy season is over, I will be putting up more videos on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video.